Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Unicorns Do Exist, the podcast where you're never too far gone, you're never too much, and you're never too broken. I am your host, Vanessa, and I'm here to finish what we started. I got so many messages of people upset with the way last week's podcast ended, and I don't blame you. I'm sorry it ended that way. It ended so abruptly. I just felt like I needed a break. And I also, like I said, I wanted to, a lot happened that day or the day before that day. No, that a lot happened the day before that I was still really much wrapped in all of the emotions and understanding everything that had just gone down, that I did not want to once again speak out of character. And I'm glad that we took a break. Thank you for everyone that waited. And if you haven't heard the first part, please go back and listen to that one. I promise it'll be interesting and fun, and you won't regret it. And so, for everyone that's going to Coachella, please, please, please have fun. Enjoy yourself. I'm more of a weekend 2 person, because weekend 1 is all about the after parties and events and things like that. I'd rather do that now that I'm back to being a local than Coachella itself, weekend 1. They have a beautiful lineup. Carol G is going to be amazing. I know it. She's going to kill it. But other than that, let's get into it. So where do we leave off? Let's see. I moved to the desert after the breakup, and even though I was heartbroken, and even though I was angry and completely disappointed with the way things went down, I was glad to be back in the desert. I'm very much a desert rat. And being close to family, especially when you're going through something like that, is honestly the best medicine. Family and friends is the best medicine for you to be able to, 1, heal, 2, be true to yourself and not feel so lonely and defeated. And I think that really set the tone for the way I wanted to heal. After the breakup, my mind knew that I was done. I was never going to go back to that place, and I was never going to get back with her. However, from what happened next, I realized that that was not the case for her. Little by little, so the first time she comes to pick him up, at least she comes down and comes inside, we talk, she picks him up, or he's asleep. And at the beginning, she's always worked a lot. We didn't really have a set schedule. We didn't really have anything. We just knew that, hey, on your days off, you can come get him. You're more than welcome to come get him, pick him up, and he's always going to be your son. I don't believe in keeping your children away from their parents. I don't think that's fair, unless obviously their parent is harming the child, then of course. But if just because I'm mad, no, I'm never going to be that person. Never using my child as a bargaining tool or a token in any situation. So yeah, she is like, whenever you're more than welcome to come get him. At the beginning, she would just be like, wake up and come whenever she wanted. And I get it. She worked a lot. And so it just would depend, like if she was tired or if she felt sick or anything like that. She would originally, verbally, we agreed for her to show up at 10 a.m. Sometimes she would show up at 12. And little by little, it kind of got frustrating. Like, we need to come up with like a set agreement. I can't just keep waiting around the house for you to show up whenever you kind of like feel like it. So she tried and did her best, like always. And that's one thing about her. Like, I feel like I always want to give her grace and understand that I believe that she's doing the best she can. And sometimes if you do not have the same kind of parenting style that, like I grew up with a mom that's very present, but my mother is very, very present. It's very different than the way her parents were. And so I had to remember and keep telling myself, like, what she thinks is a good parent is not what I think is a good parent. And so remembering that and trying to give her grace was really hard in the beginning, like very hard for me, because as a parent, I don't understand like not wanting to see your kid or not wanting to be there every single day, all day with him, or not missing him throughout the week. Like, it was just so weird for me. But at the beginning, it was just one day a week. She would pick him up Wednesday, bring him back Thursday. And that was the agreement for a long time. But she would want to come and then stay here. And then she'd want to, which was funny because after we broke up, she started to become a lot more present, which is what I wanted the whole time. She was started to come and just go upstairs and lay in the bed and fall asleep kind of thing. And I was like, I have things to do. I need to go. And she would be like, hey, do you want to go for lunch? One time she was here and she's like, hey, I really want to watch the basketball game. Do you want to go watch the basketball game? And I was like, I don't think you understand what breaking up entails. You know, I had already planned that I was going to take my son to Mexico to baptize him, which is where I'm from and where I was baptized, the same exact church. I had already started the process and talking to my aunts out there and figuring out how can I get this done. In my mind, we're broken up now. I'm going to go on my own and my family. So out of nowhere, she calls me one day and says, hey, guess what? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I have the days off. I put in my request. Days off for what? She says, well, for Mexico. Aren't we going to Mexico? And I was like, you don't need 2 weeks in Mexico with me. We were broken up once again. She's like, well, no, you're going to go baptize him. And I'm like, yes, I understand. The baptism is on a Saturday. You can come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, leave Monday if you like. And she was so adamant that she was going for the 2 weeks. And I was like, there's no point of you. And she just wouldn't take no for an answer. She's like, I'm going. We're going for 2 weeks. And we're going together. And we're going to go to Guadalajara. And we're going to do this. And we're going to do that. And I'm like, okay, fine. Eventually, because my son still was going to get baptized, because I still needed to get the passport and all that paperwork done, I was like, you know what? Fine. I also knew that if she'd come, she would help me with a lot of the expenses. So I was like, perfect. Because one thing about her is she's a great provider. She's always been a great provider. That's never been a question or a issue in our relationship. So I was like, fine, let's go to Mexico. Nobody in Mexico knew we were not together. Nobody in Mexico assumed anything different. We left before my family left. So we left early to go to Guadalajara, which is what she wanted. She booked the Airbnb. She booked the itinerary. She was like, we're going to stay in the nicer city. I had never been to Polanco, to be honest, and she has great taste. So she picked Polanco. Honestly, we had a pretty good time. Like in the back of my mind the whole time, it's like, what are you trying to do kind of thing. Like, okay, we go to Polanco. My family finally shows up. Her family comes, which I'm very grateful that her cousins came, because baptizing to me was a huge thing, a huge deal. And I was very glad that some of her side of the family was there so that they could also be part of it. To me, I thought it was a beautiful event. We had a great time, actually, except for, hiccups here and there. But in Mexico, we're all getting along, and she looks over, and mind you, this is in November. We had already had his birthday together, which is another thing where I was like, I don't feel comfortable in your house, but let's do it together. That's what co-parenting is. And let's have his birthday party at the house so that the family that's closer to LA can still make it. Your family can make it. My family from Coachella will just drive, but we'll figure it out. He had an awesome first birthday, because I've always wanted, even if we're not going to be in a relationship, I want to have a good co-parenting relationship, because that's what benefits my child. So I tried my best to reserve my feelings for my own self, and then I can deal with them and journal and go to therapy the best way I can through my site. And then when it comes to my son, he comes first, and whatever is best for him. I want him to have these memories of both of his parents at his birthday, both of his families showing up for him, having cousins and lots of cousins, and like the way I grew up. Or maybe he won't have brothers and sisters, but at least he has his cousins. And I think that's something as a Hispanic family that I love, that we grew up that way. So that's what I want for him. Okay, that makes sense. That's co-parenting. Now we're in Mexico, and my family only stayed there for a week. Like I said, we left earlier and went to Guadalajara first. They left, and then we all left to Guadalajara. We went back to Guadalajara because they were coming back for Thanksgiving. She wanted to stay there for Thanksgiving. And mind you, You tell me I nag. You tell me you can't stand me. You tell me all these things, and then you want to hang out with me in Guadalajara with nobody else. It's like, it's a little confusing. So, nonetheless, we stay. And while we're in Mexico, she looks at me and says, hey, so what are we doing for Coachella? This is November. We are not doing anything for Coachella. What do you mean? She's like, well, I got the house for Coachella. You know, you bought the tickets. What if everybody stays at the house and we go together? I'm sorry, but I looked at her and I said, honestly, it's hard for me to continue to pretend like we're together when we're not. She's like, well, we're not pretending. I'm like, we are not together. And you go around living your life like we are. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I don't know if I'm going to be okay being around you in April, because now it's November. She says, oh, I get it. Well, you're more than welcome to come to the house and stay there. And I said, thank you, but I live in the desert. I have a place to live. My mom lives in the desert. We don't need to be staying at this house. I appreciate it. Must continue to have a good trip, because we still had 5 days left of the trip when she asked me this. I just want to have a good trip and baptize her son and just keep it moving. She says, okay, she understands. She calls it co-parenting. She's like, we need to co-parent. I'm like, Coachella is not a co-parenting event. Julian is not coming to Coachella. The baby isn't coming to Coachella. How about you go with your friends? You know, half your friends you go. I have my sister and my friends, and I'll go with them. If I see you, great. If not, it's okay. I need my distance. I need my space. We can't keep doing this. And so she's like, okay, I understand. And I'm like, maybe to you, it's not a big deal because you're the one that broke up with me, and maybe because you're over it and you don't care. But for me, it is. I'm literally mourning a 10-year relationship. It's very hard for me. So she kind of understood. She made it seem like she understood. That day, she was very nice about it. She understood. She said, okay, I get it. And we left it at that. Everyone leaves. We stay in Guadalajara. We spend Thanksgiving together. And then she says, hey, when we come back for December, I'm not really going to be able to have a lot of days off because in the car business, like, it's crazy after Black Friday and everything. So I said, yeah, it's fine. I understand. Don't worry. I got it. Don't worry about coming or not. She doesn't come as often to visit him, but finally, after that, it's Christmas. Christmas, again, she says, hey, I'm going to be there. She's supposed to be there at 10. She doesn't show up till like 2 in the afternoon. Christmas Day. She has to go back to work, so she doesn't take him. She stays at my mom's the entire time. And I'm just there like, yeah, I'm glad you're here. Christmas. It's going to be fine. And doesn't leave. Then she says, hey, I'm gonna spend the night at the apartment so I don't have to drive back tonight. I said, yeah, that's fine. And then she looks over at me. She's like, hey, should we be going now? Like, it's getting late. I'm like, we're not together. You're more than welcome to leave if you want. You're more than welcome to go to the house and take your son and take care of him. You and I are not together. So she does. She comes to the house. I spend the night at my mom's. I remember that was a very hard day for me, emotionally. But everybody kept saying, like, all my friends and family would say that, oh, don't worry when she'll come around. Or don't worry, she's just angry, or she's probably angry. She'll come around. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with me? She'll come around and what? I'm supposed to take her back? I'm supposed to forget that she acts this way and does these things? Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not taking her back. Like, I don't want to get back with her. Like, I love her so much. I can't keep doing this. And even my baby sister was upset at me because I said, no, I'm honestly, I don't think we're going to get back together. She's like, don't say that. You can't say that. You don't know that. And I understand where they were coming from. Like, they loved her so much. They loved the relationship that we had. And so did I. To a certain extent. But I was no longer willing to sacrifice myself for that relationship anymore, let alone my son. So in my mind was made up. Her friends, or our mutual friends, would tell me, like, well, you do know she thinks you're going to get back together. And I was like, no, I don't know that. She's never told me that. She insinuated once right after we broke up. And I would yell at her for like not showing up on time. Like, for example, she wouldn't pick up Julian until like 12 in the afternoon. And then I would get upset. And I was like, dude, you can't do this. Like, if you're going to be here at 10, you're going to be here at 10. Like, it's not whenever you want. I can't sit around and wait for you. And so she would be like, this is why I can't stand you. Everything's a problem with you. And it's like, it's not that everything's a problem. It's that like, you talk about accountability or taking responsibility and all these things. But when it applies to you, you what? Want me to forget about it? And it's like, no, it's not. That's not how it works, especially as a parent. This is the issue. You need to be a better parent. She would say, I am a good parent. And I'm like, you're learning. I'll give you that. You're learning. You're trying. But I don't think you're there yet. And so we would fight about things like that. Still after, she would come. So then when she would get over the anger after she was mad, then she would want to come back and hang out. And I was like, dude, you can't do that. You can't just like pick and choose when you don't want to be here and when you do. You can't pick and choose when you can stand me and when you cannot. Like, I'm sorry, but after my son, I needed my friend and my partner the most. This is where I needed the love, the support, the understanding of a partner the most ever in my life. And her answer was, I can't deal with you right now. Go get better and come back, and maybe then we'll work it out. And honestly, I lost it when she said that. When she told me, you need to go get better. She's like, because I can't stand you right now. You are no fun. And she was right. I was no fun. I was 9 months postpartum. I was overweight. I was too tired. And going through my postpartum journey, I don't want to call it depression because it is what it is. It was my own journey and trying to figure it out. And when I needed my partner the most is when you were like, no thanks. What makes you think that? Because I know I'm fun. I know I'm amazing. I know I can have a great time. What makes you think that when I'm better, I'm going to come and be like, hey, take me back? Just that baffled me. And I was so pissed. And I said, I'm sorry, but I will do whatever I have to do to make sure that you and I do not get back together. And if you have to hate me for that to happen, then I'm okay with that. And that was between September and December that all that was going on and coming back and forth. And it was just like an up and down, up and down, up and down. Never knowing, just like trying to kind of like co-parent in a way where I could be me and I could say what I felt and thought without having to sugarcoat it or watch what I said, because then, I was too much. It's New Year's. She makes this big old story up about things that you don't have to make a story up. We're not together. I don't care what you do. But what I care about is that it's the first time that you have 2 days off. It's the first time that you have free time and actually chance to spend with your son, because all of December you couldn't because you were working, and you're choosing to leave to Vegas. Cool. With whom? Doesn't matter. To see what? Doesn't matter. The fact is that this is the one time that you're going to have your son again. And it's fine. I said, don't worry about it. I will always have my son. A mí no me molesta. It doesn't stop me from doing anything. If anything, I have more than enough people that I trust and are willing to take care of him. So I do remember that day I kept telling her, like, I just want you to show up as a better parent. Like, just show up as a better parent. That's all I care about. And yet you continue to not do it. So at first I didn't say anything. It took me a minute because I was already labeled the not fun, nagging ex, right? So I try not to say anything, but I'm just like, ugh, okay. I called her back and I was like, honestly, dude, like, this is exactly what I mean as you not showing up as a parent. But it's fine. I just want you to know that I don't think you're a good parent. You're not. But you keep asking me and you keep telling me that you want to be a better parent. And this is just me telling you what I think. And she's like, how would you like it if I told you you weren't a good parent? And I said, honestly, I wouldn't care. Because I know what I am. I know how I show up. I know what my son needs. So no, I don't care. You can say whatever you want. I was like, you just don't, first of all, you don't have to lie about it, about what you're doing and who you're doing it with, first of all. Second of all, it doesn't matter. Like, you chose, that's fine. Just keep in mind that these are the choices that you're making. At the end of the day, it's on you. So we'll leave it at that. And then she would make it seem like, oh, why are you moody? Why are you grumpy? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but we're not, like, she would talk to me like we were friends. And I was like, I'm sorry, but we're not friends. Like, I don't need to know about your day. I don't need to be nice or not nice. I'm like, maybe someday we can be friends, but right now, I can't. Right now, I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to be your friend. Since I already had everything done, like the passport, the baptism was done, I was like, look, there's no need for you and I to keep spending so much time together. There's no need for you and I to keep talking like we're friends. Do me a favor, and like, if it has something to do with my son, don't tell me about it. Don't bring it up. Like, I don't really want to know. If it has something to do with like things that we need to get in order, put an order in place based on like, you know, the breakup or the relationship, then there's no need for you and I to talk about it. And so she said, okay. She's like, fine, whatever. Like, she left it at that. This is in January. My birthday goes by. And she did respect it, and I'm very grateful because we stopped talking. We literally stopped talking. Pick him up at 8, drop him off at, no, pick him up at 10 or 9, drop him off at 7, 8, whatever. We were doing really good with that. January goes by, her birthday's over, February comes by. She's like, hey, we need to do the taxes for next year, and this will be the last year we do taxes. I said, that sounds like a great idea. Let me know the day. I'll be there. Once again, things that have to do with our house and our child, perfect. Let's have clear communication about that. After I told her that I didn't think that she should go to Vegas, after I was like, once again, you're choosing to not spend time with your child. She did call me back and say something like, I'm not going to go, I'll stay. But she called me back like days later, like 2-3 days later. And I was like, I'm sorry, Lisa, I already made plans. And she's like, well, it's my day. I should keep them. And I said, yeah, I understand it's your day. But a couple of days ago, you told me that you were going to Vegas. I made plans with him to go to my uncle's. Now, you can't just change your mind because now you don't want to go. I'm like, go to Vegas. It's fine. Just, next time think about it. But no, I said, you're not going to take him. I have plans with him now, so just leave it at that. I'm not going to argue. It is what it is. And so she's like, didn't argue. She said, fine. I said, okay, good. That was the first time or ever I said, no, you're not taking your son. And it was because, like I said, my son's not a toy. You can't just pick him up and drop him off wherever you want. Like, we have to coordinate. We have to make these plans. Anyway, that was January. February comes around. We have to do our taxes. I say, yes, let's go do our taxes. During the tax meeting, the lady that helped us with our domestic partnership, I asked her, hey, can you help us with the separation? And she said yes, right before. Okay. So I said, okay, perfect. We're going to do our taxes. And I said, hey, by the way, we also need to get divorced. And she looked at me and she was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, we should do the paperwork for the separation. And she's like, why? Like, what do you mean, why? Why do you want to stay married? And it kind of took her back. Like, I think she was like, and she's like, I'm like, you want to stay married to me? And then she kind of caught herself and she was like, oh, no. Yeah, that's fine. I said, okay, when we go to the paperwork, maybe she can help us and guide us through it because she helped us start it. She said, yeah, that's fine. So we go to the tax lady. This is February 15th, something around there. And I'm asking the lady, hey, how do we go about it? Because we need to get legally separated. We're no longer together. And she said, well, because you guys have a baby, you guys actually have to go through the court system and you have to file for a divorce and figure out the child custody. And I said, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, hey, I look at her. Does that make sense? She says, yeah, that makes sense. And during that time, I'm like, look, I'm the one that's not working. I don't have any income technically right now. Let me file so that you don't have to pay whatever the amount is, which is like $600 or $500 to file for divorce. She says, yes, sounds great. I said, okay, perfect. Once again, me trying to be 100% transparent and like help her out as much as possible. She says, yes. I said, okay, perfect. Next time that you come, I will go to the court and then get this done. Week goes by, she's back, picks up Julian, leaves. I go and do exactly what I told her I would. She had already previously helped me fill out the paperwork, like how much she makes and the separation and things like that. She literally signed and helped me fill out the paperwork. So when I went and turned it in, it was easy. I have no income. My ex has the income. They approved it. They sent it. They filed it. The following day that she drops him off, Thursday night, I said, hey, by the way, here's a copy of what I filed. I filed for the separation. She blows up on me. She starts yelling about how embarrassing I am. I really don't remember much, but it was more like, you did what? And I was like, I filed for the separation. Like, isn't that what we said we would? And she's like, you're so embarrassing. I can't stand you. I'm not even going to deal with it. I'll let my people deal with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what people? She's like, well, I already started my process. I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but we literally talked about it a week ago, together, in person, in front of the tax lady. You gave me the green light. Which people? I have an attorney because you don't let me see my son. Oh, okay, though that's news to me. You don't think of telling me last week before I filed? And she doesn't say much. At first I asked her, like, when did you get your attorneys? Because literally, we just talked about it literally a week ago. It was from one Wednesday to the next. So when did you get an attorney? And she goes off about how embarrassing I am again and on social media and spreading all these lies. And I'm like, okay, you're not answering the question. And she's like, it doesn't matter. I was like, it kind of does though, because I'm over here telling you everything I'm going to do every step of the way so that we're on the same page. And now out of nowhere, you have attorneys? I was like, can you at least just tell me, when did you get your attorneys? Like, if it's not a big deal, just say it. Like, if you didn't do anything wrong, just tell me. So she tells me, I got them back in January. Oh, okay. Sounds good, I guess. Like, storms out of my apartment and says those famous words, I'll let my people deal with you. I said, okay, well, hey, by the way, I still need to know your people's information. Where do I contact them? Where do I send the paperwork? How do I email them? Like, I still need to know your attorney's address. She's like, don't you have that? Won't they look it up? I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know how this works. I don't have an attorney. So she calls me back and she's still mad. And I'm like, look, and then when she would get upset, she wouldn't send me pictures or let me talk to my son or FaceTime him, or she wouldn't answer phone calls. That was one thing that I was still very attached to my son, and I would spun out. Like, that was one thing that would hurt me so much. And so to the point where I would panic and I was like, what can I do? How can I get a hold of my son? Like, do I call the cops? Do I do this? Do I do that? Like, that was one thing that would get to me a lot. So she was upset, wouldn't send me pictures and stuff like that. And then the next day I called her and I was like, look, once she calms down, I call her, I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to go tit for tat. You not sending me pictures of my son is horrible. And it sucks that you don't pick up the phone. However, you have him one day, maybe 24 hours. I have him 6 days a week. Do you really want to go tit for tat? Like, there's no point. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a hateful, mean person. And I said, and she's like, no, like, I'll do my best. Like, I'll try harder. She's like, I just had no service. And I said, okay, fine. Benefit of the doubt. You had no service. However, do you understand how it looks shady that you have attorneys in January and I'm over here trying to figure out what we're going to do together, telling you. She's like, well, it's not shady. I'm like, you could have brought it up in front of the lady that was doing our taxes when I asked. what's the best way to go about it. You could have done that. But no, you didn't. And if you already filed and if you already did all these things, why am I filing again? Like, it doesn't make sense. So she finally kind of like calms down and says, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, just send everything to, this is my attorney's name, my attorney's number. The paperwork is in place. I said, honestly, what you said you're giving me is fine with me. When it comes to the house, I want nothing. As it is, you guys already put all my shit in the garage. I've been living like 6-7 months without it. I'm like, if I obviously don't have it anymore now, by now I don't need it. So whatever's in the garage is in the garage. And by that I meant like all my clothes, my shoes, things like that that I just left behind, and I'm probably never gonna get it back. And that's fine. I said, it is what it is. I came with nothing, I will leave with nothing. And I am okay with that. Just be a good parent. Respect me as his mother. That's it. You know, that was it. And I was okay with that. She said, yes, that's great. She would just be really, I don't want to say shady, but shady and just like mean about things. And I really didn't care. I was like, you know what? I think we were scheduled to be separated June of that year. Her attorney did all the paperwork since she had one, and I was like, okay, just send it to me and I'll sign it. Send it to me and I'll sign it. I'm okay with that. She kept saying she wanted more time. I said, fine, we'll do 2 days instead of one. Pick him up Wednesday, Thursday. I'll pick him up Friday morning. Okay. So verbally, we would agree with a lot of things. But over text or paperwork, we wouldn't. I honestly didn't care. But my son started coming home with bruises. First one was in his lower back. I said, hey, like, he has a bruise on his lower back. Like, how did that happen? Oh, I don't know. Hey, we have to talk about these things. Like, did you see him fall? Did he hit himself? Did he cry? I don't know. What do you want me to say? I was like, oh, God. I was like, I know communication is not your strong suit, but you need to be able to talk to me. You know, she would just dismiss me or tell me, you know, I was exaggerating. I said, okay, fine. That was the first time. Second time, he came home with the black eye. Again, hey, he has a black eye. What are you talking about? I didn't see it. How do you not see him have a black eye? You know, how do you not hear him fall or, cry? And so I'm like, hey, I know kids. Kids are kids. He's learning. He already walks. He jumps off the couch. He's falling in my care. Accidents happen. When he fell, you were the first person I called. You were the first person I picked up the phone and said, hey, he just fell. I'm going to take him to the hospital because honestly, he fell pretty high. I was panicking. I was scared. I took him straight to the hospital. I spent all day in the hospital with him and letting you know what was going on because it was an accident. How do you not see him have a black eye? And so over text, I said, hey, I get accidents happen, but like, it just makes me think, like, what are you watching? If you don't know how it happened, if you didn't even notice it, then who's watching it? So I started to get really, really uncomfortable. And so I have to trust that that's his mom. And I know she loves him. I know that. So keep thinking, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to get better. I was like, just tell me, just talk to me. Just let me know when he gets hurt so that I'm aware. Finally, the third one, which was literally, I think, a week before her attorney sent over the paperwork and 3 weeks before we had our court final date. This is already in June. He comes home with scratches in his neck. Ugh, these scratches were ugly scratches. So I said, hey, one more time. What's these scratches? I took a picture. I sent them to her in his back. And her response like, oh, I don't know. I thought he came like that. I was like, you thought he came like that? Like, so he has all these scratches on his back and you don't care to ask me, hey, how did he get these scratches? Like, I'm asking right now, the moment I saw them. She goes off on me again. Well, there you go again, making it a big deal. I can't believe you. And I was like, it's not nothing. And yes, it is a huge deal. She's like, you just like to make it a big deal. And I was like, it's a huge deal to me. My son's getting hurt. I need to know how, first of all. Second of all, she says, I can't wait to be done with you, which is like 2 weeks from the court date. She's like, I can't wait to be done with you. I can't stand you. She just goes off on me. And I was like, once again, I have nothing to do. It's not about me. It is a big deal. And even after these 2 weeks, you're going to have to learn how to communicate. You're going to have to learn how to talk to me because my son is only 2. Whether we're divorced or not, a co-parenting relationship is a co-parenting relationship. Why would you want to be in a bad one? And I don't know what I said exactly, but something triggered her that she went off on me in regards to so many things that I trusted her with. As a partner of 10 years, you trust them with so much and you give them so much that you never think they're going to use it against you. But she turns around and starts to say, pretty much, watch your step or I will take him completely. She said something along the lines that I have a squeaky clean record. You don't. And she's right. I don't. I've never claimed to be the perfect person. I'm not. But I am better. And so when she said that, I got scared. I got super scared. Especially saying things like, I'll take him. And my attorney's ready to come after you, and so you better watch your step. That's what I remember for back of my head. So I got super scared. I called one of my sister's friend who's an attorney. He said he couldn't take my case, but he referred me to Carol Adams, which I love. Thank you so much, Carol. So he referred me to Carol, and I thankfully she had an appointment available the next week. And I was still scared because it was like a Tuesday. And I said, hey, I'm scared because I have court in a week from now on a Wednesday. And this is what her attorney sent me. Her attorney on there has said 50-50 and all these other stuff. And I was like, I'm scared. I'm scared. And I don't care about anything else. All I want my son. I don't want, especially if he keeps getting hurt. So my son, this was 2 weeks before the last scratches. And now they're threatening with taking him from me. And everybody would tell me like, well, she makes so much money, she could take him if she wanted to. And I was terrified. So I think Carol saw that. I asked Carol, please, can you take my case? She said, how much money do you have? I said, I have $3,000. She's like, my retainer's $5,000, but I'll take it. And she told me why she does what she does and how she left an abusive relationship when she was younger, and she also didn't have money for an attorney. And so she was like, I got this. And I said, okay, thank you. It turns out that even if I would have gone, we wouldn't have been divorced. We would have been separated. And I was like, why didn't your attorney catch that? Why didn't your attorney do anything about it? Like, you had the attorney this whole time and they didn't. Anyway, so that's how I ended up with an attorney from the fear of losing my son. But one thing Carol did say is said, hey, she's like, well, you don't have any money to pay me. So if I'm going to take your case, I'm going to take your case and you're going to let me do my job. And I said, okay. And she's like, so, tell me. She did a motion to dismiss, like to close all that stuff because it was wrong and start over. So we had to start over, which is why the divorce has taken so long. And I remember telling her, I'm like, I'm scared that she's going to be upset that I have an attorney. And she's like, well, of course she's going to be upset. She's already upset you left and you didn't go back. Granted, like I said, she's never told me to come back. Not like in those words, but I was scared and I was glad that Carol took my case. And once that had happened, once I realized, or she realized that I wasn't going to just roll over and take it, I kid you not, everything fell into place. She started to be nice over text. She started to be respectful over text messages. She started to be respectful of my time with my son and her time with her son. Meaning, once we finally agreed on the custody, like times or schedule, she's always been on time. She's always, unless we discuss that she's not going to come or I'm going to take him for that week, she's always showed up. And I am very grateful. am very happy that she's showing us up as a parent. The parent that I've always wanted her to be. The parent that I've always wanted to be present for my son. Not for me at this point, because I mean, there's nothing there for me. It's for my son. It's for his own development, growth, memories, and bonding with her. My son loves her. And I love that. Even though it was the scariest thing I had to do, which was get an attorney and figuring out how I was going to pay for it, I'm so glad I did it. Because she started showing up as the parent that I wanted and I needed her to be. And yes, I am very proud of her. And I am very proud of how far she's come. In the sense of taking great care of him. Since the last incident of accidents, or him getting hurt, at least now she communicates and tells me, hey, he fell. Hey, he got scratched. Hey, he was playing with the dogs, which is completely understandable. Now we laugh about it. We're like, we're going to bubble wrap this kid because he is wild and crazy. And that is all that I wanted. That is all I cared about. Just having an open communication in regards to keeping each other informed about our son. My son also has had a hard time with speech. I think it's because he speaks Spanish in one house and English in the other, which is okay. It's a little delayed. However, I know it's going to benefit him in the long run. And even getting him speech therapy is something that we both had to, learn to communicate about. And it wasn't always easy, but it is the hard conversations that we have to have, because at the end of the day, I'm willing to have and willing to fight for, because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to benefit for this is my son. So, to make a super long story short, when I say that everything that is meant for you will be yours, it will. Sometimes even more. Sometimes your mind is so close that God wants to give you more that you don't even know, that can't even imagine. But you have to trust and believe in yourself and believe in the fact that what is yours will be yours. No hate, no jealousy, no anger is ever going to make that possible. So when I started taking myself out of the equation and saying, hey, this is what is best for my son, let it be, everything started to work out. And it's still working out. We're not completely done. We're not, and we probably never will be, because we're going to have a son for the rest of our lives. With everything that happened, I'm finally in a place where I'm like, it sucked that it had to get so ugly, and it sucked that it had to get to this point. Sometimes I am the bad one in the relationship. I am the, I guess, evil one or mean one or not so nice according to her. But I'm okay with it because I know that at the end of the day, my son is in a better place. I've always said that at this point, it's whatever the judge says. If the judge says no, no, I'm okay with that. If the judge says yes, yes, I'm okay with that. And I just hope that we can continue to grow as parents. We continue to grow as co-parents. I continue to grow as individuals and communicate and learn how to be better humans for this tiny little human that we brought into this world, because that's all that matters at the end of the day. I will and always want nothing but the best for her, because the best for her is the best for my son. I don't understand parents that say like, oh, fuck them, or fuck his dad, or oh, I just wish anything bad on them. Like, I don't get that. Like, I want her to find an amazing partner and an amazing person that she can, redo her life with along the side, because that person is going to be in my son's life forever. Of course I want that. I want her to, be happy and thrive, And there was a point in time where we did talk, and she did send me a message, which meant a lot to me, which said, hey, let's go out in the world and be the best that we can be so that we can give him the best life possible. And I said, yes, I love that idea. Thank you. I hope that the sooner we can heal and grow from them, the sooner we can come full circle and start to do what is best for him. Learn to take ourselves out of the equation. And so for any parent out there that is going through a separation or a divorce, it's hard. It's super hard because you are going to yearn and you're going to miss that human that you spend so much time with, that human that you loved so much to create life with. But understand that that love isn't gone. That love is never going to go away. That love is there. It's now here manifested into a human being, which is your child. And that is the love you need to protect. I cry because I love him so much. And I'm so grateful that everything happened the way that it did, because I learned to become very independent. I learned to love myself and heal myself. I learned to understand that no one can bring me back but me. And it's something I had to learn. However I did it, I did it. Don't underestimate your power. Don't underestimate your strength. And don't ever underestimate the love or the freaking protection of a mother. Oh my goodness. I remember saying this before. I had a son, but even though he's the boy, those balls that he has growing inside me somehow made me grow a bigger pair and be stronger and braver than ever. I'm very, very grateful with life. I'm very, very happy with who I am and who I'm becoming. And even though I am the villain sometimes in some people's stories, I'm learning to like that role. So I hope you guys enjoyed this second part. I love you. Thank you for staying till the end. This is not meant to put anyone down at all, because like I said, she is showing up as an amazing mother now. She's doing her best. Even holidays now, we're starting to talk about holidays, and I'm so glad that she said, even the weekends and stuff like that. So I'm over the moon with the way everything is going, and I couldn't be happier. So yay. Send nothing but love to everyone around you and everyone in our lives. And remember that unicorns do exist. You're listening to one. Bye.